This is the last of 3 videos which contain selected excerpts from Brook Ziporyn's book, Being and Ambiguity, Philosophical Experiments with Tiantai Buddhism. The Lotus Sutra tells us that there is only one Buddha vehicle, that the lesser vehicles are in reality the Buddha vehicle. All teachings indeed are the Bodhisattva path, and all practices, even those of the Shravakas that explicitly reject or negatively prehend the Bodhisattva path, are in fact instances of the practice of the Bodhisattva path, as can be seen, for example, in the tale of Sakyamuni's previous incarnation as the Bodhisattva never disparage. This means, on the Tiantai reading, to begin with, that all actions and cognitions are Buddha actions and cognitions, and that all partial cognitions and beliefs can be opened and revealed to be, indeed, to have always already been, the cognition of the whole truth. That is, one may believe that one is merely pursuing a certain local goal with a particular sort of appetition, such as the sons running out of the house toward their promised carts, the lost son digging the dirt to make minimum wage, or the travelers taking step after step to move closer to the illusory city. But one is always doing more than one knows in doing these things. The sons are saving their lives and moving toward the great ox cart with each deluded step. The lost son is readying himself to learn of his inheritance with each day's labor. The travelers are moving closer to the treasure trove beyond the illusory city with each deluded step they take toward the latter. One's satisfaction is here in decided contrast to one's initially conceived aim or appetition. Each deluded step is at once completely deluded and completely enlightened. That is, one was genuinely misguided, but precisely by being misguided, and in these cases only thereby, one was well guided and practicing the correct path. To be a Buddha means to be able to withhold information and thereby to more effectively disclose it. To use upaya, skillful means, and then open and reveal them at the appropriate time. If all experiences are to be understood as these upaya, as in the Tiantai reading, then what is not explicitly included in any event is not simply dismissed as irrelevant, but is an integral part of that entity's being, what it is. However, the Lotus doctrine takes a further step. Each entity is not only made what it is by excluding certain things, and thus to be thought of as including them via this exclusion, it is also actually revealing them by excluding them. The Buddha can only fully reveal the Bodhisattva path in all its vastness and multifariousness by concealing it for a while. The travelers can only reach the treasure by not seeing it for a while. The sons must go through a period of misconceiving the aims of their actions in order to achieve the true end of those actions. Otherwise, the true nature of those actions can never be revealed at all. So precisely what is excluded from any entity is revealed in or even as it, precisely by means of this exclusion, or even precisely as this exclusion. This involves the Lotus Tiantai idea of neither sameness nor difference as pertaining to the relation between provisional and ultimate truth. Here we must conceive time itself, or process itself, not on the model of definiteness, but on the model of opening the provisional to reveal the real. Every actual event, we may say, is an opening of the provisional to reveal the real. In the first instance, this means only, in the special case of the Buddha's teachings, to reveal that all other ways were really the Buddha way. But in the fully omnicentric Tiantai reading, this same structure applies to every moment of experience. Each is an opening up of all other moments as provisional upaya, which both expressed and concealed itself. And these two, expressing and concealing, as identical, as in the case of the Buddha's upayas. This is the essence of the Tiantai Three Truths. Hence, the relation between any one entity and all other entities must be understood here on the model of the relation between provisional and ultimate truth, as laid out in the Lotus. What is this relation? For the Lotus, all previous teachings are both contrasted with the Lotus's teaching of the one vehicle, and at the same time, by this very exclusion, instantiations of it. They are simultaneously the antithesis of ultimate truth, and, precisely because they are its antithesis, ultimate truth itself. Here, the agent responsible for opening the rest of the world is no longer simply the ultimate teaching itself, but all the inferior teachings themselves. That is, once the Lotus has opened all the other teachings, those other teachings become the ultimate teaching itself. But to be the ultimate teaching means to have, like the Lotus, the ability to open up all other teachings. This point is made explicitly in the writings of the school of the Tiantai master Siming Zili. So it is not only that this actual entity currently in the process of reaching its satisfaction prehends all other entities in their objective immortality, such that they are merely passive raw materials for its work. On the contrary, it is impossible even to specify any exclusive agent of this operation. We can say with equal validity that the prehended entities participate in prehending themselves, or in opening themselves up. Indeed, in strict Tiantai terms, any participant in the process can be adequately described as the sole agent of the process. Any aspect can be the sole prehender, while all the others are the prehended, and vice versa. It is for this reason that we have referred to this process sometimes as self-recontextualization. This point is well illustrated by the Tiantai reading of the climatic scene in the Lotus where the treasure tower emerges from the earth. This stupa, a monument to a part of a past deceased Buddha, can be read as the past in its objective immortality, coming to form a part of the present. Its active emergence from the earth to bear witness to Sakyamuni's preaching of the Lotus already suggests the active element of this prehended element. But the parable goes further, for the dead or objectively immortal Buddha inside turns out not to be dead at all, and where we expected to find merely a part, as in standard Buddhist stupa worship of this Buddha, we have instead the whole living Buddha. He speaks. He invites the Buddha of the present to open up this past, and indeed to join him in it. The live Buddha inside the stupa is a powerful image of the active participation of the past in its own prehension, and his wholeness testifies to the fact that no simple unilateral part-whole relation pertains to the relation between the prehending present and the prehended past. The objectively immortal past is here not just one element or part taken into a unicentric whole that is orchestrated by the present entity. Note that the Buddha of the present, Sakyamuni, after being instructed by the Buddha of the past, is able to open the stupa and enter it only by gathering together all the aspects of his present activity, all his transformation bodies. We may read this as suggesting that when the present moment unifies the extent of its multifariousness, the multitude of prehended entities of various and contrasted forms as which it currently expresses itself, this has the simultaneous effect of revealing the activeness of all the seemingly dead, past, merely prehended or objectively immortal entities, and overcoming the illusion that they are merely parts within a larger whole. The stupa is revealed to have a live, complete Buddha within it. Sakyamuni opens it up, and, importantly, joins him inside. This suggests that not only is the past an active member of the prehending relation, but that the present has recognized itself as acting in the past as well. The deeds of the long-dead Buddhas are now seen to be equally validly describable as the activities of this Buddha living now. no definitive judgment can be made about which is the agent and which is the patient, nor what is a part and what is the whole. Each is the whole of which the others are parts, and each is the active prehender for which all the others are the passive prehended, reciprocally. It is this insight that paves the way for the true doctrinal climax of the scripture, the Buddha's revelation of his prior enlightenment and lifespan. If the trace gate of the sutra may be read as asserting that all practices of sentient beings are in reality readable as bodhisattva practices, the revelation of the root gate may perhaps be understood as taking the next step, namely that the activities of a bodhisattva may be equally validly read as the activities of a Buddha. In the Emergence of Bodhisattvas from the Earth chapter, Sakyamuni says, "Since the time when I reached supreme enlightenment at the town of Gaya, at the foot of the tree, and put in motion the all-surpassing wheel of the law, I have brought to maturity all of them, all the bodhisattvas of the earth, for superior enlightenment." In this verse, any notion of dichotomy between the recent enlightenment and the original enlightenment of the Buddha is completely effaced. Sakyamuni asserts in the same sentence both that he was enlightened at the foot of a tree in the town of Gaya 40-odd years previously, and that his activities as a Buddha extend to the ancient past, to the maturation of those myriad of advanced bodhisattvas. It is in this way that we must understand his infinite lifespan. For the implication here is that once he became a Buddha at Gaya, he realized also that he had already been a Buddha, or rather that the activities of all Buddhas of the past were in fact equally readable as his own activities. These activities were necessarily done in the form of not knowing he was a Buddha, just as the bodhisattvas must at times forget that they are bodhisattvas and believe they are shravakas in order to fulfill their bodhisattva vow. The parable of the doctor in the lifespan chapter illustrates this point well. The Buddha's deeds are sometimes better accomplished by his absence, his death, than by his presence. That is, he is all the more present in his own absence, all the more active and efficacious. Hence, upon enlightenment, he is able to see that all his previous and perhaps future moments of non-enlightenment, the absence of his own awareness of Buddhahood, were precisely Buddhahood, the functioning of enlightenment, which has been enlightening beings for countless ages. Non-enlightenment is enlightenment in the form of non-enlightenment. Delusion is Buddhahood in the form of delusion, as delusion, included in it precisely by being excluded from it. Here not only does the prehended share in the work of prehending, but the prehender sees the prehended, the past deeds when he was not yet thus and so, as aspects of his present prehending, or the activity of this very actual entity which he is at this moment, and vice versa. Those past moments of otherness are not merely passively prehended. They are also in this very moment of prehending itself all the more active, all the more efficiently prehended, all into the actuality of the Buddha vehicle, by being apparently passive and absent. The dichotomy between activity and passivity is here overcome.